Great. Okay, so once again, welcome to the Regionally Coordinated Transportation Planning 5-Year Plan Update. We'll talk about completing the plan today. Let me get this in presentation mode. There we go. So, to ask questions during the webinar, I'm going to ask that you use an email address. All of the questions that we get in writing during the webinar, and those that will be sent in later to the same address, we're going to publish an FAQ on our website. I'll get to the dates on that in just a second, but basically for this we need to have the questions in writing so we can get things recorded. The email address to use is ptn_programmgmt@txdot.gov. Right, so our agenda for this meeting, we're going to cover the background for the plans, the lead agency roles, each of the elements in the table of contents, information on the Q&A, and then basic information on e-grants assistance. So the background for this, TxDOT requests that applications come in to assist the lead agencies in developing, adopting, and implementing the 5-year coordination plan. This coordination is mandated in Texas among transportation providers, health and human service agencies, and workforce boards, and that's in the Texas Transportation Code. The FTA requires that we do it every 5 years, and the current plans are running out in 2021. And Section 5310 projects must derive from the 5-year plan to be considered for funding. So any of you lead agencies who receive 5310 funds, you're familiar with this. So the lead agency role, y'all are very important. So in the beginning of this process, you will be assessing the progress of activities from the previous plan. So that one that is in effect now, basically checking up and seeing how well y'all did. Did you meet all your goals? Which is a good way to start looking forward. You'll convene your stakeholders to identify existing gaps and inefficiencies in the transportation services. And you'll need to identify solutions to fill the gaps and eliminate the inefficiencies. And you'll want to identify ones that can actually, for which you can do solutions, or which you can implement solutions. And you'll develop the new plan, lead the plan adoption process, implement the plan, and then measure along the way to see how effective the plan is. And then we start around to the beginning again by updating future plans. So the plan table of contents, this is also laid out in the application instructions. We'll be posting an updated version of the instructions that has the updated information, in particular for getting the information on the transportation resources in the region. So we'll go through these right now, starting with the introduction, which is more than just a friendly greeting. This gives you the background and the purpose of the plan. But the most important thing in the introduction is describing the methodology used to develop the plan. And this is a crucial step in starting the planning process because it's your blueprint for the collection, measurement, and analysis of the information used to develop the plan. So we want to know the method or the process used to make the plan. What was the reason that you picked that method or process? We understand that each area is unique and has its own opportunities and challenges, and we'd like to know why this particular methodology suited you all, and make sure that it's logical and clearly defined. Another critical part of the introduction is to talk about how transportation disadvantaged groups were engaged in the plan development and approval process. And this is key because this is, among other things, required for the 5310 funding. So the second element in the plan is the transportation resources in the region. So we'll need to list and describe the transportation providers in the region, and you need to do public transportation and also human service transportation, a workforce agency, and other nonprofit, private nonprofit community groups. We've got information on the transit systems, The 2019 information provided by TTI in their report will be on the website in February, and I've provided the link to it right there. The link is also going to be in the application instructions. The lead agencies are responsible for contacting the transit providers to do the vehicle inventories and also to survey non-FTA recipients for the plans. So if you have community agencies or workforce who don't receive FTA funding, you'll need to contact them directly to get information, to list and describe their information. And in addition, lead agencies, you need to contact all the agencies responsible for transportation planning in the region. The next part is really kind of getting into the meat of it, where you're assessing the unmet transportation needs, overlaps, gaps, and doing an analysis on the gaps. So this is where you really get into kind of the technical part of it. So we're looking for a comprehensive assessment and analysis, also a narrative describing what's going on, and we need supporting data. So this gets into geographic data, demographic information, especially on transportation disadvantaged populations. So we're looking for age, race, income, individuals with disabilities, limited English proficiency, any information that would indicate the need for transportation services. Also, all health and human services agencies and programs and workforce agencies. We need contact information that's current and comprehensive. And then again, all agencies responsible for transportation planning in the region. There's a lot of information we need in the comprehensive needs assessment. It didn't all fit on one slide. So the next slide is where we're going to look at the transportation overlaps and gaps in service. So this is going to be looking at those transportation disadvantaged populations. Where are there inefficiencies and where are there gaps? We'll need a description of the research methodology, observation and findings, and the recommendations in here, and also a copy of the research instruments that were used. If there were surveys or other forms like that used to gather the information, we'll need those included. The next section is planning for comprehensive services. So this is figuring out how the plan integrates services from various programs, looking at Section 5310 and other FTA-funded programs. Those would include 5311, 5307. Those would be the major ones. Health and human service programs, workforce programs, and any others. The integrated planning process is where things come together. So this is going to describe how the 5-year plan will align or integrate with other plans in the area. So this is your metropolitan, rural, and the statewide transportation plan. So we're looking for a comprehensive list and a narrative description of the planning processes for the transportation needs and services. And it's going to, MPOs, RPOs, anyone providing transportation, workforce, health and human services. There's a theme. Always including health and human services and workforce in these elements. That's the coordination. And explaining how all of the plans are or will be integrated. Plans don't work if they're standing alone. They need to be consistent and in communication from the most local level up to the state. So the next section is getting into actually looking forward, the vision, mission, goals, and objectives. So we'll need the vision and mission statements, and those can include revisions from previous plans. It could be that you've gotten to where you wanted to go or where you had envisioned, and now it's time to take the next step and look forward. It might be that you need to retool what you had before, given the information that you've been able to gather over the last planning cycle. So we'll need you to develop goals and objectives. And these should be deliberative and actively involving the steering committee and other stakeholders. So the goals the idea for the goals and objectives development would be that looking at your steering committee and stakeholders as the local experts and taking their experience and knowledge to help develop your goals and objectives. So just to go over, it's a lot of times a goal and objective, the terms can be confused. For the purpose of this plan, a goal is a brief, clear statement of an outcome to be reached within the plan time frame. So that's one thing, that it's going to be something that's achievable. You're hoping to be able to check this off at the end of the 5 years. It should also be something encompassing, tangible, descriptive. A goal can be a broader concept. It's not saying how to do something, but it's identifying the results. And it should be measurable. And we're looking at quality and quantity in this. And I really want to point out that a goal should be, it's time-based, within the 5 years, and achievable. So your objective, this is defining the actions that have to be taken to reach the goals. And you've probably heard the acronym SMART: specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-bound. These are where you get into the specifics and providing more detail. And the lead agencies and other stakeholders will be working to collaboratively prioritize these objectives, looking at which are short-term, which are long-term within that 5-year cycle, and talk about implementation based on what resources are available. So we'd like to keep what's in the plan actually within the grasp of the lead agencies to complete within the 5 years. The next step would be to address sustaining the planning and implementing the plan. So identifying, describing the planning region's capacity to sustain the planning activities and to implement the plan, to work the plan, Steve Wright used to say. So this includes talking about the capacity of the planning organization, infrastructure, staff, the plan for leveraging other resources to pay for activities and projects, and also how the lead agency is going to remain engaged with the regional stakeholders, including individuals with disabilities, seniors, people with low incomes, veterans, advocates for children, and other members of the public. So this is the more about how we're going to move forward and actually make this thing happen. And then we get the performance measures to evaluate effectiveness. This is how we know that we've succeeded. This is how we can measure what's actually happened along the way. So we're not, the lead agencies aren't in a position of getting to the end of the 5 years and only then being able to look back and see what's going on. The performance measures are annual, and those will also be reported to TxDOT. So we're looking for specific and locally determined metrics to evaluate the effectiveness for each priority identified in the plan. And we say, again, locally determined because we realize that every situation is different. Every lead agency has its own context. And these metrics shall objectively measure the extent to which the priority was met or the gap was filled. And in this section, we also describe how to collect, maintain, and assess the data for regional and the statewide performance measures. The statewide performance measures are covered in the application. No, are they covered in the instruction? Okay, I'm not sure. We will confirm on that. So, again, where to ask questions. For clarification on this call for projects, contact PTN. Please don't contact your PTC or the program manager, in part because we're in the process of hiring a planning program manager. Linda Hernandez and I will be handling this part of things for the short term. But again, to get specific information, you'll use that same email contact, PTN_program mgmt@TxDOT.gov. And responses to the written questions will be posted. Questions received by February 21st will be posted to the website. We won't be accepting any questions after that date. So please check the website periodically for updates. Like I said, this webinar will be posted, the FAQ and the updated application instructions. And then for the eGrants assistance, we have a fantastic team of folks who are working the help desk. You would contact them directly with any eGrants issues. And that email is ptn-egrantshelp@TxDOT.gov. And their phone number is 512-486-5957. And they are available daily, 8 to 4, except for federal holidays. The webpage to get all of the information on the call and everything else that PTN does is listed there. And again, the responses to the questions are going to be posted on the division website. Now would be a good time to ask questions. If you can send those to that email address, I'll back up so you all can see that. There we go. So, do we have any questions yet?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to hold off for a couple of minutes for folks to be able to send things in. So I'll check back in about 5 minutes. You can also use the chat function in the WebEx to send questions. All right, we had a question posted to the chat asking that the last round of this grant, the lead agencies had to provide verification that the other stakeholders wanted them to continue in the capacity of the lead agency. The lead agencies don't need to submit verification this time, but the lead agencies should be the one chosen by the stakeholders to fill that role. All right, we're going to give it a couple more minutes for questions. Again, if you have a question that comes to mind later as you're going through this, you can email. As long as we get it by February 21st, we'll include it in the Q&A document that gets posted online. Another question that came up in the chat asking if the inventory of resources includes school districts that offer bus services to students, and the answer to that is no. This wouldn't include school districts unless the schools were providing some kind of open to the public transportation. Well, thank you, everybody. We're going to wrap it up here. Again, you can send your questions in to the email. Thank you all for participating, and look forward to reading your applications and your plans. Thanks.